hand, thinking that he's going to save a little bit of money here, save a little bit of money there. You can talk to his lawyers that have left the case. You can talk to people in his campaign. They all say it's a disaster. And since Rudy's now in charge, it's going to end badly. But it's a great grift for Rudy. He's making a ton of money.
Yeah, I think in the Trump story, the question that I always have that I never really get a satisfactory answer to is the why. And this may answer some of the why on Giuliani's part. Why is he pushing this so hard? And why is he one of the few lawyers in Trump's orbit who is willing to do this? If you notice, the names of the other folks that have represented the president in other cases of the Mueller investigation or such are not attaching themselves to this. This is Giuliani's show. So the question is, why is it that Giuliani is pushing it so hard? And he's all over the place making all of these specious claims about voter fraud and about things that there's nothing to back up. And who is ginned the president up to this? And this may answer some of that question. Giuliani seeking $20,000 a day dating back to Election Day for his work. And certainly there appears to be no end in sight for this. And there is a financial incentive for this to go on longer and longer. Now, there are other reasons why Giuliani and Trump may be doing this. Look, both of them think they may have criminal exposure here going forward if Trump were to leave the White House. So there are other factors here. But at a baseline level, the longer this goes on, the more money Rudy Giuliani makes.
Well, and Casey, I know you have a question for Michael, but the question, Casey, is Donald Trump going to want to be separated from money that he knows is going to get him nowhere? He knows these lawsuits are going nowhere. And he's got a choice to make today in Wisconsin to cough up $7 or $8 million to have a recount move forward that he knows is not going to be reversed, just like the Georgia one's not going to be reversed. So how much longer is he going to be paying Rudy Giuliani, who advisors have been complaining for weeks, keeps ginning the president up? How much longer is he going to pay for this? And does anybody think he's going to spend $8 million, waste $8 million on a recount in Wisconsin that even Scott Walker says will not reverse more than a couple of hundred votes?
Well, I think the smart money, Joe, is that no, he's not going to pony up to pay for that. But that's kind of the deadline, the thing that I have been watching to figure out how serious are they really about this? Are they willing to pay for a recount? Because that is what they would, as you point out, have to do in Wisconsin. The person who demands the recount has to pay for it. And it's not cheap. And we know that Donald Trump, while he makes a lot of claims about what he's doing with his money, oftentimes is making decisions that are totally different than what he's saying. I mean, charitable contributions are a pretty good example of this. But Mike Schmidt, I want to ask you about the certification question, because that seems to be part of where we're moving here. There was a flap overnight in Detroit, in Wayne County, where there was a lot of confusing back and forth about whether they were going to certify vote totals there. The certification seems to be what Republicans are waiting for in terms of acknowledging and saying, OK, yes, Joe Biden has won this election. But there seems to be some evidence that Giuliani is now focusing in on that and trying to create problems and raise questions about that to try and, you know, the conspiracy theorists would say, oh, this is to try to kick the election to the House of Representatives. That we know is a very far-fetched scenario. But what do you know about what Giuliani is doing on that front and what he's telling the president about that?
Well, it's sort of the next juncture in the story where as you were saying, the Republicans are waiting for it to happen to, they say finally go along and say that, it looks like Joe Biden won. I'm sort of just skeptical of that because we have waited the entire Trump story for the norms to sort of just kick in. And I'm less convinced that they're just going to kick in here at the end at the most dramatic part of the story. But Giuliani sees that as his next best bet. He doesn't have a lot of great cards to play, but if he can undermine that process and throw anything in the gears of that's their only shot. going forward. It's clear that these recounts and these claims of voter fraud are not going to move the needle. So that's just simply the next point where they can try and do something and to try to continue to undermine the result here. But I think that at a broader level, a lot of folks will say, well, this isn't going anywhere and it doesn't mean anything. And I think that's totally true. But at the same point, they're taking the president's base on Fox News every night or OAN or Newsmax, wherever they're watching, and they're dipping them in the lighter fluid of this voter fraud story for several weeks. And look, I'm not saying that Donald Trump's base was ever going to accept Joe Biden as president or look at things normally, but it will only make things worse as we go forward here. And the fact that this notion is being pumped out to them every night, I think is something that we are going to be unspooling for many, many, many months, if not longer, to come.